Welcome back to India Tonight. I'm now joined from Calcutta by the former Lok Sabha Speaker Somnath Chatterjee. Mr. Chatterjee, one of the issues that has come to the forefront as a result of the controversy surrounding Governor Bhardwaj in Karnataka is the question whether politicians, either because there's no room for them in a cabinet or because they've retired, should be sent out as governors, almost as if it's a consolation or retirement prize. What do you think is the right way to answer that question? Should retired politicians be made governors or not?
You see, I should have thought myself on principle there was no objection. Only thing, our politicians, even if they hold constitutional posts, they seem to carry their political agenda with them. It always creates problem, no doubt, in many matters. Therefore, unless they are able to sort of dissociate themselves from their political past, yes, sometimes the trouble begins and trouble is created.
Let me give you...
I don't want to identify Bhardwaj only. Yes.
I don't want to identify Bhardwaj alone. Let me give you a list of the former politicians who became governors who ended up in one way or another creating controversy. Bhardwaj himself, Bhuta Singh, Ramlal, Sippe Rizi, S.C. Jamir and Venkat Subbaiah. These are all examples of politicians who were made governors and ended up creating controversies that embarrassed the democracy of India. Doesn't that suggest that it's very hard for a politician to put his political agenda behind even when he's become a constitutional authority like a governor?
You see, but there are many others who have not followed their example, and from that point of view I am very sorry to say that many of our speakers in assemblies have also taken a such partisan attitude which should not have been taken in matters of disqualification. And that's why I have advocated that this power of disqualification should be taken away from the speakers and should be given to some tribunal.
Absolutely.
Even election commission.
But can I bring you back to the issue of governors rather than the issue of disqualification? I want to quote one of the Sarkaria Commission recommendations. It says, the governor should be a person who has not taken too great a part in politics generally and particularly in the recent past. Doesn't that suggest that there should be a sanitation period before a politician becomes a governor, perhaps a 1 or 2 year gap, so that there's enough distance between his political past and the new constitutional role he plays? Would you accept the need for a sanitation period?
You see, considering the examples you have given, and there are many others maybe in future also, that the question of this question has arisen, but I feel that there are many honest politicians and who agree to take up constitutional positions and who can keep themselves away from the partisan politics, but maybe for the purpose of having the faith of the people generally in the office of governor. Probably it may be that it is necessary that it should be divorced from those who have been holding positions, political parties, and have been taking partisan approaches.
This is such a subjective issue because the appointing authority has to decide whether as a politician the person took subjective decisions or not, and that itself is a subjective issue. Do you think that the appointing authority for governors should cease to be the government of the day and that we should set up some sort of cross-party panel, perhaps under the Vice President, where a whole lot of influence comes to bear and a list is prepared for the Prime Minister so that from that list he can pick his preference?
Well, in view of the possibility of misuse of the authority, it may be tried, but there are, apart from politicians, charges have been made against others of partisan approaches. You know that even though somebody in the army, somebody in civil service, they have also been accused of taking a partisan attitude. Therefore, as a past politician, I don't want to sort of describe every politician as politically dishonest or constitutionally dishonest, but the question is a question of approach. Therefore, well, and who prepares the list, and whether such a list will be acceptable to each and every one of the people of this country, I don't know. Well, maybe worth trying, since it has become a disease in a sense. But what I said also, I hope he will also advocate that what I said, namely these powers, many of these powers should be utilized not in a manner of day-to-day routine work. There will be some parameters there. Supreme Court has said also with regard to...
Quite right, sir. Can I stop you? That's the subject. Can I stop you? That's the subject for another day, and I promise you we will take up the part of disqualification later. But one last question. Is it inherent in the role and the powers of a governor that depending upon the character of the person appointed, the role can be either fulfilled honorably or fulfilled controversially? It's got nothing to do with the person, it's got something to do with the powers inherent in the role. Would you agree with that?
Well, there are some powers have to be vested in the governor, otherwise the office becomes immaterial, in unnecessary office. But there, again I come back to this, there must be general approach of probity in the exercise of powers of any constitutional authority. Probity in the sense of both political probity and otherwise.
Okay.
Therefore, let us hope that such people will be ultimately selected, not because he was in some political party, who approaches their constitutional duties in a manner which keeps under constitutional the ethics of it.
We leave it there, Mr. Chatterjee. Thank you very much for talking to India Tonight. And the critical point that you've made is that people with probity need to be appointed governors. That will ensure that they behave properly in office. Let me put that issue to you, General Jacob, and let me first ask you, do you think as a rule politicians, retired politicians, should be kept out of governorships, or do you accept the point made by Mr. Chatterjee that you can't have a hard and fast rule?
Well, I would just put it this way. You want an impartial governor. A governor has to be impartial. He takes an oath. I took an oath on the Constitution. When you have a politician who is made governor, when he is member of a political party and he takes an active interest in politics and acts as an agent for the center, for the government who appoints him, then I think it is wrong. You want someone to be impartial, and he cannot be impartial if he's pursuing the agenda of the government and party.
All right, even if you haven't put it as starkly as I'm interpreting you, that to me sounds as if you're saying politicians should be kept out of governorships. What about something else, Mr. Ramachandran? Even if there are politicians who did not take subjective decisions and were honorable people as politicians, should there at least be, as the Sarkaria Commission recommended, some sort of sanitation period of a year or two before a politician retires in politics and gets appointed to a constitutional office like the governor?
Karan, I don't think that cooling off period is going to be of much significance if a politician continues to be politically minded in that narrow sense. The question is, does an individual possess gubernatorial qualities or not? I'll give you examples from the legal field. There have been lawyers with Socialist Party past, with RSS past. They have made excellent judges. Nobody has questioned their judicial performance because when they were appointed, they were found to possess judicial qualities. Therefore, the key is to find people with such qualities.
Very quickly, sorry, Sarabji. First, what exactly would you define as gubernatorial qualities? And secondly, do politicians have them? Or does the fact that they've been political and therefore partisan suggest that it's unlikely?
First quality, impartiality. Extremely important. Besides Karan, this was debated in the Constituent Assembly, and Nehru said, have people who are not eminent people in public life, educationists, scientists, and of course can't leave out politicians, but not those, he said, who had an active part in party politics. Because it will be difficult for them to get rid of that, if I must say so, that thing that is injected in the blood and to give the appearance of impartiality. So you can't make a hard and fast rule. Ultimately, it depends on the individual. But knowing those things as they happen, I think it is the same rule to adopt. Please avoid people having active politicians. Do not appoint them as governors because they'll find it difficult is part of the best efforts to act impartially and fairly.
What about
be inclined towards the political party which appointed them?
What about that second issue I raised with Somnath Chatterjee? Should the appointment of governors be taken away from the government of the day or from the Prime Minister, and should a committee, a non-partisan committee, perhaps headed by the Vice President, be appointed who draws up a short list from which the PM can pick his preference? General Saab.
I don't think that will happen because no government is going to give up its right to appoint.
What about the question, should it happen?
But I agree, it's a better way of doing it. It's a more sensible way and a more impartial way of doing it. I agree with it. But it will not happen because no government will give it.
Very quickly, we have what General Jacob considers a sensible, non-partisan way of doing it, but he says it's unlikely to happen because no government, no matter what party it comes from, will actually give up that power. Isn't that a rather sad comment on the way we conduct our political life?
It is, but then Karan, it raises one more question. If governors are to be chosen by this kind of a collegiate mechanism which is being suggested, should we not think one step further? Same consideration should weigh for choosing the President of India also.
Absolutely. The same consideration should apply to the President of India also. That's a wonderful thought to leave us all with. We broaden the subject and ask you not just to think about how governors are chosen, but also how presidents are chosen. What a tantalizing point at which to end. My thanks to Sodhi Sarabji, Raghu Ramachandran and Lieutenant General Jacob for joining me, and my thanks to Somnath Chatterjee for joining us earlier. And if you have been, thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night.